If you are super focused on somebody else's journey and where they're at or what they're doing, which is society's messaging to us, right? Hey, look at me over here. I'm doing all this stuff. Well, if you're spending all your time looking there, how can you know you? And so therapy is a really helpful space for that because we get distracted by the world and the demands or expectations of others that it can be very easy to lose yourself. And so therapy is a really great space to slow down and understand you more and what helps you feel settled within your body, connected to your bones, so that you're moving from a place of grounded confidence and not fluster or lack. Hi, guys, I'm Macy. Welcome to my little corner of the internet. Would like you to know, I don't really care if you know, honestly, but I think it's helpful for you to know. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I've been working in the mental health field for over 10 years in did in lots of different settings. And so today, what I want to talk briefly about is how to find a therapist and who needs a therapist and why even does it matter or is it necessary. And so I believe that there's no person who cannot benefit from therapy or therapeutic engagement in some capacity. And that is because therapy essentially is a neutral place to talk about life. And if you're out here living it, then you are aware that life is hard and it can be confusing and overwhelming. And so having a space that is just for you, that is just about you to come and talk things out can be really helpful. Uh, Now, something I think is really important is that for you to be aware of is that in going to therapy, the objective, hopefully, is that you're going to understand you better and to be better equipped to navigate the ups and downs of life. And so, as you're moving through that process, it's really important that you are aware that it is a process. Sometimes people approach change in general or therapy specifically like it's going to be 1, 2, and then it's over. But really, there's a lot of tending and there's a lot of uncomfortable truth that you may come to. And so the goal is not that, let me just be honest. Some of y'all be coming with the thought that you're going to go to a couple sessions and then it's going to be over. And for some people, that may be true. Like you may be in a space where you just kind of need a quick touch in and you feel settled and you're ready to be off to the races again. And if that's you, that's fine. And then for some of us, the issues that we're coming to address, while on the surface, it's I'm having trouble sleeping, at the depths, it's all of this unresolved stuff throughout your lifetime that's showing up to the surface as difficulty with sleep. And so you may not recognize that, right? Because we get distracted by the symptom that we don't sometimes understand the root. And so with therapy, ideally, you're going to be getting to the root. You're going to be learning more about yourself fundamentally. Like, who am I at my core? What brought me there? What are the things that I love, enjoy, and want to celebrate? What are the things that I'm like, I want to give that back? And how can I untether from that? Right. So, that is a process that takes time. And so it's important that you give yourself the time that you need to work your own process. And that's not linear. It's not a straight line oftentimes, and it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you may get to certain parts in your treatment or in your healing process where you need a little bit more time in a particular space than somewhere else. And that's okay. It's really important that you're not comparing yourself or your journey to anyone else but you, because at the end of the day, only you can live in your skin. And so if you are super focused on somebody else's journey and where they're at or what they're doing, which is society's messaging to us, right? Hey, look at me over here. I'm doing all this stuff. Well, if you're spending all your time looking there, how can you know you? And so therapy is a really helpful space for that because we get distracted by the world and the demands or expectations of others that it can be very easy to lose yourself. And so therapy is a really great space to slow down and understand you more and what helps you feel settled within your body, connected to your bones, so that you're moving from a place of grounded confidence and not fluster or lack or people pleasing or attention seeking. And so therapy, again, I think is just a neutral, um, can be a neutral space to really talk about life. And so the reason I say can be is because I think it's important to be mindful of your search process, the process of actually like finding a therapist and getting started, because that in and of itself can be a lot of work. It can be a lot of work. And sometimes you may or may not mesh with the first provider or the first few. And that can be discouraging for people. So I want to just kind of put that out there and normalize it because everybody is not for everybody. Everybody is not for everybody. And that's just a fact. And it doesn't mean that you cannot enjoy or celebrate or encourage people or that you can't have respect for people who are not similar to you, because you can. And at the end of the day, you maybe not, you maybe don't want to share your deep darks with people that you don't jive with or vibe with, whatever you want to call it. And that's okay. And so don't set the expectation for yourself that whoever you pick off this page or off of this list is automatically going to be your person. They might be, but they might not be. And it's okay to go into that with the awareness so you're not kind of subconsciously telling yourself or sabotaging yourself based off of what you thought may or may not happen in your first encounter or your first few, if that makes sense. So I think that is really important to be aware of as you're searching. The first one may be the one, but they might not be. And it's okay to take a step back to see if this person really jives or resonates with you. And if so, great. And if not, you can touch in with them. Hey, this is working for me. This is not. See how they can adjust. And or you don't have to do that, right? But it's helpful practice, honestly, communication and boundary setting. And then you can move on to the next person. And so as you're actually searching, some things to consider are actual search engines, right? So the mechanics of how to find a therapist. So there are sites like Psychology Today, Zen Care. Those are two that I'm very familiar with. There's lots of other ones out there as well. There's one called Therapy Den. I believe there's one called Therapy Tribe. Um, there is a site for Black women. I forget what it's called specifically, but I'll link it below. And there's one for Black men specifically as well. And so I'll put those links down below for you to explore at your leisure. But those are different search engines that are specific to mental health. And so you can search by the type of therapy that you want to receive, the type of provider, so gender identifications, race identifications. You can search by insurance type. Um, Oftentimes you can search by cost if you want to do out-of-pocket services. So there's different ways that you can filter. You can search by your region. So those can be helpful when you want to get an idea of the pool of resources that are in your area or available to you. So that's a good place to start. If you are using an insurance benefit, you can also contact your insurance directly to get a list of providers who are in network with your particular insurance. And so you can do, there's a member services number on the back of your insurance card. And so it's often called member services, and or it might be customer service, something like that. But it's on the back of your insurance card, most likely. And so you can call that number and they can give you a list. Or if you have access to your online health plan, which you can set up if you don't have access to it, but you can often search on their web portals as well. So there's search engines where you can filter by your own specifics, and then you can contact your insurance directly. Now, sometimes people can get discouraged, like if you don't have insurance or if you have a high copay, you may or may not feel comfortable with utilizing that benefit for services, and that is okay as well. You have to do what you have to do. And I think keeping that in mind, sometimes we miss the investments in ourselves that really matter. And by that I mean it's very easy to spend money on things that we really don't essentially need. Like essentially to the root of who I am as a person. I need this thing or I'm not going to live the sustainable life that I desire. And so when you're weighing the cost of daily life and where you're investing your resources or where you're not, this is not me, you do with your pockets what you're going to do with them. And as you're doing that, consider how investing in your mental health, in your physical health, in your general wellness and wholeness, and the understanding of who you are as a person to your core. How can that help you in the long term? The more that you invest in who you are authentically and really understanding you, how much more will that support you in every other area of your life? And so that doesn't necessarily mean that you can only do therapy, right? That's not the only option. This is just me talking about some of the benefits of therapy specifically. And so those are things to consider. And then if you still, though, have a cost concern, there are definitely programs out there that can support you with your mental health costs. And so there's one that is I know of, but I can't think of the name of it for some reason. So I'm going to link that below as well. But it is for minority women, and they will pay for 12 therapy sessions. And I've provided services through that entity, and it's pretty positive. So you would sign up for the benefit and then find a provider who accepts the benefit. A lot of them are listed on ZenCare, and then they may or may not have their own listing of providers as well. I'm not sure, but I will link that below as well. And so based on your area, there may or may not be more free resources available to you. And so if therapy is something that you desire to do, but cost is a concern, and it's not a matter of, I can stop buying Starbucks every day to pay for my copay. If it's I don't have insurance and I can't afford it, can I consider, do I qualify for a Medicaid or a reduced insurance plan of some kind based on my financial circumstances? So that's something to consider. And or are there free resources in my community that I can access? And so reaching out to your local social services could be really helpful for that. Oftentimes, at least the libraries in this area have a resource day where social workers are available. And so that could be an option as well. And so I think something to really be aware of, topic specific, but life in general, is that you can have the things that you desire. You can have the things that you desire. It's just that you have to work for them. You have to be willing to put in the effort. And that is the part where people drop off, where people get stuck. because the work is not easy. It takes time and patience and consistency. And so that is important for you to know as you head into it. It's not it's not necessarily going to be easy. Now that doesn't mean that you cannot connect and have joy along the way, because you absolutely can, but you really don't want to go into it blind-eyed thinking that you're not going to feel anything, because if you're not, we're maybe not doing it right or deeply enough. um, and so hopefully this was helpful. Just some information on how to find a therapist, the mechanics of it. Oh, okay. And then also like how to find my therapist specifically, as far as, touch and tone and the feel of my sessions. I think it's important to be aware of what you're looking for. And if you're not aware, that's okay. You can learn as you go, by really paying attention to what feels good to me when I'm engaging with this person. How do I like to be supported? And then you can start to understand if they are a fit for you and what you need and desire from your services. And so some questions to ask might be, what is your treatment style? What approach do you use in therapy? Or can you talk to me about what a session would be like? Could you explain to me what the process of therapy is like? How will we set my goals? How will we know when I reach my goals? What type of tracking do you do? Are there any other services that you offer? What are your policies on medication, or what is your approach to medication if I need it? Um, yeah, so be willing to ask questions, because they're willing to answer. And if they're not, that's maybe not the person for you, because the therapy space is meant for you as the consumer, right? So it's really not about the provider, it's about you and showing up for you and what you need. And so if you're in a space or circumstance where that is not the case, I would pay attention to that, because really, what is the goal then if it's not you? Now, I'm sure I'm going to think of some other things. I'm sure I'm going to think of some other things, but I will just do a little update if I think of something else. And so hopefully that resonates. Please comment below if you have any questions or concerns about how to find a therapist, or who benefits from therapy, and even what has been your experience in searching for a provider. What are some of the things that you've enjoyed about therapy? What are some of the questions that you might encourage other people to ask as they're on their own journey? So talk soon. Hope that this finds you well. Hope that something resonates with you, and that you really do something today that honors who you are and where you're going.